You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a blue belt who trains at Rising Tide Academy located in Westminster, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, Cory Dukehart.
Hey, Lamar, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, the pleasure is all mine, sir. The pleasure is all mine. But so let's get it started, man. You know, if you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means, and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Cory Dukehart. I'm a blue belt at Rising Tide Academy. I live in Westminster, Maryland. The academy that I train at is in Finksburg, Maryland. And they also have two other locations, one in Columbia, Maryland, and just recently opened one up in Hanover, Maryland. I've been training for coming up on 2 years now. The beginning of May will be 2 years, May 6th, actually. Got promoted to blue belt, last August, which, you know, I realize is a relatively quick promotion to blue, but I had gotten addicted pretty quickly and trained like an absolute madman up until that point, and still do. You know, it's interesting because I didn't start training until I was 36. It was about a month before my 37th birthday. So I went many years not knowing a thing about jiu-jitsu. And now it's something that I do, you know, 5 to 6 times a week and have pretty consistently since I started.
Isn't that crazy?
It's pretty phenomenal, man. It's, you know, it's really weird, you know, and it's very stereotypical. Like I'm the same. I'm that guy that's like, oh man, I wished I would have started it earlier, you know, and didn't find it till I was in my mid to late 30s, really. But you know, whether or not I'm making up for lost time now by training as much as I am, I don't know what it is other than I mean, physically it's done wonders for me for sure. But and as cliche as it is, it's mentally, you know, it's done a lot of good for me also. You know, I in 2021 was promoted at work and, you know, stepped into a really great position at my company that I was very proud to have. But with that came a lot of additional stress. And in May of 21 is when I started training jiu-jitsu. So I always joke with my manager that, you know, when he promoted me into that position, it was no coincidence that not long after that, I started choking people for fun, you know, to release some of that stress. But it does help, man. I'm not going to lie. It does help.
No, it helps tremendously. Yeah, just get to go in this place, this padded room, put on some killer pajamas and choke people, and, you know, so you don't have to choke people out in the streets, right?
That's right, man. That's right. It definitely helps. And yeah, you know, I train mornings on some days before work, and then we'll also train in the evenings on other days after work. And I mean, it just does make a big difference, you know, in how I then approach the rest of my work day when I'm able to train in the morning, you know. Just, you know, that release of endorphins and dopamine and things of that nature after a good session just allows me to kind of go into the day in a better mental state, you know, and then vice versa at the end of the day. It just kind of allows me to end the day and clear my mind. You know, it's really, you know, jiu-jitsu is the one thing I do in my life to that when I'm doing it, I'm 100%, you know, present in the moment and not thinking about anything else, you know, not thinking about, you know, work or family things or, you know, focused on the task at hand. And, you know, I mentioned that, I don't know how many months ago to one of the black belts at my academy. And he had a pretty good take on it. He said, well, you know, it has to be, you know, you can't really give your focus on anything else when somebody's essentially trying to kill you. You know what I mean? You gotta be pretty focused on what's going on. And that's true. You know, that's true. It allows me just kind of to clear my mind.
Oh yeah, definitely. As a person who deals with like, you know, I have ADHD, and usually when it's jiu-jitsu related, that's the only time I'm like 100% focused, or, you know, if I'm doing art or whatever. But yeah, like I was literally just talking to one of our blue belts yesterday. We was rolling and just talking about how, like, when I roll, like my mind shuts off and I'm just muscle memory and autopilot at this point and can roll for like 10, 15 minutes straight, not a care in the world. But it's definitely a mental changer. It's like from the first day on, like if you give it some effort, yeah, it'll definitely help out for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. It's just been such a good experience, like I said, physically and mentally, and I've my whole family is involved at this point. It actually, my son has wrestled. I've got an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and my son has wrestled since he was 4. So we actually found Rising Tide Academy just through Instagram ads, and I thought it would be something good for him to do in between wrestling seasons. Just because of the natural similarities that are wrestling and jujitsu. So I'd signed him up originally, and he was enrolled for a month and taking classes, and I was taking him to the classes, and while sitting there kind of on the sidelines watching his classes, I would peek in and see some of the adult classes, and it sparked my interest as well. So I kind of credit him for getting me involved. Then about 8 months later, my daughter turned 5. We signed her up. And then about a month later, my wife, we finally got my wife on board. So my son is coming up on 2 years in. My wife just finished her first year, and my daughter just finished her first year as well. So yeah, we've got all 4 of us enrolled and participating, and it's been a really cool thing that we are able to do as a family as well.
I know, right? I mean, it's nothing like packing the whole family up to go do jujitsu.
Yeah,
because like my wife trains, my daughter trains. I have a 3-year-old, so she's not there yet, but
yep,
she'll be.
Yeah,
she'll be putting on that gi, stepping on those mats as well. So
yeah, absolutely. No, that's been the really cool part. And look, man, I'll be the first to admit, when my son, when we had signed him up, and then I signed up, like I said, about a month later, and immediately took a really big liking to it and was training a lot. So selfishly, getting them involved, I felt a little less guilty, when going all the time, now that I can bring them with me, you know what I mean? And not just coming home from work and then leaving, right away. So now they don't all go as much as I do, but they do go, 3-ish times a week or so. So there's enough times where we're all kind of going together, and it is kind of like a family thing, which is nice.
Yeah. Cause my wife, she started maybe like a few months after I did initially, and then we had our second child and COVID, and then so it was just like she hasn't been able to train, but she's back at it now, and it's at a part where I'm starting to compete, so I train a lot more, and just to the difference of me being me going to the gym, and she's like, then you're going all day, blah blah blah. But now it's like she's there with me the whole time. She's like, oh yeah, we know you got XYZ coming up, so that means you're gonna be staying late for class. She was like, all right, and she'll sit on the sideline, wait till I get done, and then we go home. So it's just like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
She understands.
Absolutely. No, I can relate 100%, man. I can, that's, all of us going together helps. And yeah, when there's competitions coming up, whether it's for me or my son, we obviously turn it up even a little bit more. But yeah, having the whole family involved makes it a much more supportive environment. That's for sure.
Man, I'm telling you, it just makes everything so much easier because, if you come home beat up, they understand why.
Yeah.
It's like, why you keep doing this to yourself? Like, right there with me, so shut up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So you said you got hooked early in your jiu-jitsu journey. Do you remember when it happened?
Yeah, I do actually. So and actually it's funny because I tell all the new folks that sign up, at our academy now, and I'm having, see new guys come in and been there for a month or so, it's like, I almost feel like the first, 5 to 6 months or so, at least for me, and it kind of seems that way for others, like when you're rolling and things are happening to you and you don't even know what they are, you know what I mean? Like you feel like a baby out there. And, I mean, any dude, any man, that can be a little demoralizing at first. You know what I mean? It certainly was for me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I was a relatively in shape, athletic guy, even though I was in my mid 30s, and just got ragdolled, routinely for a while, and I'll never forget, man. There was a moment I was probably about 2.5 months in, maybe. It was training pretty consistently, but just taking beatings relentlessly. And I remember, leaving one class and sitting in my car in the parking lot and thinking to myself, like, maybe this isn't for me. You know what I mean? Like maybe maybe this isn't. Maybe I'm not going to be good at this, or maybe I'm not going to like this. And it was kind of like a moment of realization, because I kind of thought for a second that, at the moment, it doesn't seem like it's for me, but I thought about, all right, well, if I walk away from this in defeat, essentially, like, what does that say about me as a man? You know what I mean? As corny as that may sound, but it's like that's me quitting, so at that point I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And in reality, the only way to figure it out is to stick with it and just keep going, as much as possible. And for me, that was, it just kind of allowed me to put my nose to the grindstone and just go relentlessly until things started to click for me, just one by one. And I mean, look, I'm only a blue belt, so there's still so much, an infinite amount of time as far as that progression goes, left for any of us. But, you do get to a point where it's like, it starts to really, really become fun when you start to pick up just parts and pieces, and things, start to make a little bit more sense. And when you are getting submitted or you're getting swept, at least you know why. Like, oh, I screwed up. Why that happened, then even then, when you're, like I said, when something not great happens to you, but you understand what you did to put yourself in that situation, then the mental aspect of it, and kind of that, like we all have heard before, like that human chess aspect of it kind of comes into play, and it becomes a bit more fun. And then once that happened for me, is when I really just, really, really kind of fell in love with it. And like I said earlier, in the conversation, it's so weird to me that I went through that many years of my life not having a clue. Didn't know the first thing about jiu-jitsu. I never wrestled growing up. I was a baseball and football player growing up. I never wrestled, never did any type of, contact sport like that. To now, it's hard to even fathom not having it in my life in some way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. Because I still remember my first class like it was yesterday. Like it always plays in my mind. Like when I talk to people about their first time doing jiu-jitsu, because mine was similar. I played football a lot in little league, high school, whatever. So I was like, okay, I can handle myself. Whatever, it is what it is. But the first two people I rode with was, one guy was a white belt. He was a lot younger than me, and I got manhandled. I'm like, no way this little guy is doing this to me. Like, So second time I rode was an older guy. He was a blue belt. And same thing, washed. I couldn't move. He just full control the whole entire time. And I'm driving home like, I just know I didn't just get manhandled like this. Like, there's no way this happened. So yeah, I had those doubts. Like, this is stupid. I felt a little bit embarrassed, because it's like, dang, man, how did you, one guy was younger than me and smaller. The other guy was way older than me and smaller. And I felt like the weakest one in the room. Yeah. Being one of the biggest guys in the room, but I felt like one of the weakest. Yeah. So I was like, nah, I thought about it. Then, my friend of mine who got me into it, we talked about it. He's like, yeah, man, you know what happens, man. You just got to stick with it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to stick with it, because this shit ain't happening again.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right, man. And that's exactly what it was for me, too. It was a matter of the realization that there are, size is important. There's weight classes for a reason, but it's not the end all be all, and there are little guys, when I joined, I was probably walking around at 220 ish. Now I'm 195, but I mean, I roll with, 145ers and 155ers today that are proficient, and, they give me fits, I mean, and I got 50 pounds on them. So yeah, size, you got the right technique, size And that's what I like about it too, is that, you know, that the humbling aspect of it, you know, puts you in check real quick, you know,
real quick, real eye opener.
Absolutely. You know, there's so many guys at my gym that, I mean, look, if I didn't know any better and just saw him on the street, like in your mind, I could take that guy, and I would be horribly mistaken, you know?
He said, I would be so wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, our school, you know, we're slowly growing, so we got like a lot of white belts, and one guy in particular, he was in the army, I believe. He wrestled, he does kickboxing, strong guy, man. And I rode with him for the first time. I think it was Tuesday, and we started, and I'm like, all right, I'm not about to outmuscle this guy. I'm not about to outspeed this guy. And I just rolled this wave for like 10, 15 minutes. And next thing you know, I just hear this. I was like, oh yeah, it's time. It's time. I'm like, you're getting pretty tired. You're on top. You're pretty tired. He's like, no. And boom, swept, choke, out. I was like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's the move with those, you know, the young athletic types, especially the wrestlers that come in, man. Like I said, I never wrestled, but I can tell now, you know, training as much as I have over the last couple of years, you know, when we get wrestlers that come in, you can tell real quick who wrestled and who didn't, you know. But you know, so their explosiveness always is better than most of the people in the gym, but they tend to gas themselves out a bit too quick, you know. And that was a little bit of a struggle. I mean, when my son signed up, you know, as a wrestler first, you know, again, in my mind, when I signed him up, it's like, all right, this will be something good to do in the off season between his wrestling seasons. And he still wrestles. But what I didn't realize when signing him up is that certainly there are similarities, but there's a lot of differences too, you know, and the main one being, you know, having your back on the mat. You know, and when during his wrestling seasons, you know, he was trained for 2 years. Like as soon as your back hits the mat, you know, you flip over to your belly, which in jiu-jitsu is the worst thing you could possibly do.
No.
You know, exactly. Yeah. No-no. So he had a, you know, and at the time he was 6 years old when I signed him up for jiu-jitsu. So that was a bit of a learning curve for him. Like, all right, today I'm wrestling, tomorrow I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and just kind of understanding the differences of the strategy and the technique. And he really, you know, he's 8 this year. He just finished up his 4th wrestling season, had a great season. But this year is when I really start to see that aspect of it click for him, you know, where things were working. He won a number of different golds in jiu-jitsu tournaments this year, and then, you know, finished 13-5 in his wrestling season. And I could see like he now understands like what to do and when to do it. When those first couple of years he was struggling, he would give up his back in jiu-jitsu tournaments and get choked, you know. So it's neat kind of watching him, you know, have all that kind of come together.
Yeah. And that's the vein of wrestlers. Like, you know, they come in, you know, they're explosive, they know how to use their size, but see, as soon as they back touch the mat, they turn and, you know, go to turtle, and it's like, oh, come on now. Don't make this easy for me. Don't make this too easy for me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So do you compete? Or you thought about competing?
No, yeah, I do and have. Not terribly consistent with it, just, you know, due to life. But I've been in, I think, probably 6 or 7 tournaments, both in gi and no gi. I won 1 gold at white belt in no gi, and I've won 3 golds at blue belt, all in the gi.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've had a nice little run at blue belt. I was as far as matches go, I was undefeated in all my matches once I got promoted to blue. Up until December, I went up to a tournament in Pennsylvania and lost my first match there. And you know, it was it's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. It was an ego check that I probably needed. You know, I got the blue. I was doing really well in the tournaments and feeling good about that, obviously. But then you quickly are. Someone else is out there to remind you that you still got stuff you got to figure out. You know what I mean?
Right. The jiu-jitsu guys came down like, nah.
Yeah.
Calm it down.
For real. Pump the brakes, old boy. Pump the brakes.
Like, slow down, Turbo.
Uh-huh.
You still got a lot to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, this has been, a hell of an experience. Just learning jujitsu, and one of those things that, luckily we were able to learn early is about that ego. Like, your ego will get checked on the first day, hands down. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Because you come in, that one person comes in, they think they know everything and don't. They think that they're gonna like out muscle everybody and can't. And it's always like the smallest person in the room beating up the biggest new guy, and
Absolutely.
they don't show up no more.
Yep. Absolutely.
I've seen it so many times.
Oh yeah, me too, man. Absolutely. And that's, like I said earlier, there's certainly a huge part of me that wishes I would have started way earlier, in my 20s. I wish that would have been the case, but I've also thought, what, I don't know, from like just a maturity standpoint, an ego standpoint, that I would have been ready for it in my 20s either.
Yeah.
Like I've considered that, if I would have started then, I guarantee you the initial outcomes would have been the same. And I don't know how I would have handled that in my 20s. I mean, not that I was some like egomaniac, but, I've certainly grown up a ton between my early 20s and my mid 30s when I started, training. So yeah, part of me wishes I definitely would have gotten involved earlier. But I've also thought, I don't know, maybe it was the right time, when I did.
Yeah, because I think about that too. Like, man, I look at my daughter, and I know you look at your son now, and it's like, man, if I could have started at your age, oh man, it'd have been a monster. But yeah, I think I started when I was supposed to, because in my 20s, I was anger issues. I had real bad anger issues, and I know if I would have taken a first loss in jiu-jitsu at that age, I probably would never came back.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it when I was supposed to find it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think that's important for everybody, and continuing on, I mean, there's so many stats about how many people start, and then quit, that quit as white belts, never even make it to that first, belt promotion. It's tough, I mean, they always say, like, jiu-jitsu is for everybody, but not everybody can do jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just depends on it. I mean, not to toot our own horns or anything, but it takes a level of toughness to stick it out, and both physically, but I think just as much mentally. Like I said, that day when I was sitting in the car, like, I don't know if this is for me, that was kind of a wake up call. Like, all right, you're being a punk, stop being a punk.
I mean, that's what Chris Harder said. He said it the best. It's not who's the best. Who's who lasts the longest.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, who's left.
Yep.
Because I've talked to, even before the podcast, just out, just be out and about, and I'll, have on something jiu-jitsu related, or like a t-shirt or a hoodie, like I'm always wearing. And people be like, oh, you train, I used to train, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, what, how long you been training? Oh, I've been training for like 8 years. Oh, okay, yeah. But I stopped at blue, and I ain't training this long. And I'm like, oh, why did what made you stop? I don't know, man. Just, I was like, no, that's not an excuse for me. Like, I need something better. Like, it's just that blue belt itis. Like, everyone gets a blue belt and they just disappear.
Yeah. I've seen it, man. I've seen it. I mean, when I got mine, there was a number of us that were promoted the same day, and were tested the same day. And, I mean, there's probably about half of us that are still coming, and that was only 6 months ago, so and that's what's weird to me. Like, obviously I've been familiar with that, the blue belt stereotype of, getting the blue and then quitting, almost essentially from when I started jiu-jitsu, certainly as a white belt. And I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine the thought process in that, and saying, all right, well, that's enough. I did it. There's so much left. Like I said earlier, I mean, from a knowledge perspective, and an infinite amount of knowledge. I don't think you ever get to a point where you're not still learning something. And that's, one of the things I really like about the academy that I go to, and it's the only academy I've ever been to, so I don't have a ton to compare it to. But what I will say, to Rising Tide's credit, is, we have a lot of different black belts that we have access to, and which I think is great, because, everybody's Jiu-jitsu is different because of their body type, whether they're a small guy, a big guy, a strong guy, a weak guy, fast, and different types of games that they play Jiu-jitsu. So having the access to that many different black belts, there's 6 and that we work with, and I take different classes with all of them. You kind of you get so many different looks and different perspectives of jiu-jitsu that I think has been super valuable for me in kind of figuring out, okay, well, what is my game going to be? And kind of understanding that. So it's just, I feel very grateful, having access to those types of guys.
Yeah. Our school is small. So, we have our instructor who's a black belt. We got me and another guy who brown, 1 purple belt. I think 2 or 3 white, 2 or 3 blue belts. Yeah, 2 or 3 blue belts, and then we have a handful of white belts. But even some of our lower belts, they'll come in and they'll like, oh, I saw something on YouTube or Instagram, and they'll show it. It's like, huh, all right, let's work that. Let's figure it out. Let's dissect it. Let's make it work and find out what doesn't work, and go from there. And my instructor is the same way. Like I guess you want to say I get my teaching methods from him, because he's the only one I've been under for so long. So the same way he approached new techniques or people asking questions, the same way I do. They're like, yeah, man, I saw XYZ and da da da. Okay, do it. Show me if you got the video. Show me, but let's work it. See what works and doesn't work, and that's the only way to me, I feel like you get better.
Yeah, for sure. So. What I was getting, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but bring it back to like the always learning aspect and around the different belts, the black belts that we have at our academy. One thing I've noticed is that all of them, when one of the others is teaching, like you'll always kind of see, 1 or 2 of them, if they're in the academy at that time, kind of either taking the class just as a student and drilling with us, or just kind of like peeking in and listening in and picking up different tips. And they're having those conversations on the side about something. Hey, I saw you did this. Show me how you were teaching that. And, it just kind of proves the point that, I think the folks that are true students of the game, like a black belt isn't the end all be all, obviously. I mean, from a knowledge perspective, obviously we look at them and consider them the experts, and they certainly are. But I've always admired the fact that the ones that I am close with, are constantly continuing to learn and try to get better and picking up different tips and techniques from their peers as black belts.
Yeah. And, hats off to my instructor as well, because there's never a time where he's not learning something. There's never been a time where he's like, yeah, I perfected XYZ. Because he'll be like, we'll work something Tuesday, and then Tuesday night, 2 a.m, he's sending like, oh, look what I just found. And it would be like similar to a technique that we did Tuesday. We're doing class, and then that Thursday, like, oh yeah, we about to work this and break this down and blah blah blah. Or we work together, so we'll talk about it at work. Like, nice. Did you watch the video I sent you? And it's like, well, we'll go over it at work and then work it in class the next day. So yeah, man, it's just always learning. Always learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's cool about it, man. It's forever challenging, it's super challenging to me at this stage in the game, obviously. And I know that it will continue to be for a long time. And that's what I think intrigues me about it so much, is that it doesn't get easy, and that's what I like about it. I like that it's hard, I like that I have to figure it out. It's what keeps me interested and has so far.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's, jiu-jitsu is constantly evolving. Because when you look at it, for example, you're a blue belt. Once you get to purple, then the new white belts will start walking in, and they have you now. Like, you have the people before you, they have you now, and the people before you. So it's like, and then when they get older, they have you, everybody in front of them, and so on and so forth. So like the younger generation always gets better so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
which in turn it has to make you get better because like I got to be able to keep up with them now.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen a little bit of that already. I mean, I think back, when I first started out, there was a group of students that were at, blue and certainly purple that, just kind of took me under their wing and as those beatings that I mentioned, in the beginning of the discussion there, I mean, they would always take the time to be like, hey, you did this and show me, how I got myself in that position or what they did to get me there. And that's a huge help. And I've tried my best, on the occasions where, I may be getting the better of someone is make sure I'm explaining that to them and walking through it with them, because the goal is, we obviously it's just like most gyms. I mean, we call ourselves a team, and the goal is for all of us to get better. No one's there, trying to claim scalps, so to speak, with taps and things of that nature. We're there to, enhance the entire group, so it's that level of communication through the process that allows us all to get there for sure.
Yeah. And that's the best school dynamic I look for. Even when I haven't done it a lot, but the few the one time I went to another school, it felt like my school.
Yeah.
Everyone was chill, everyone was cool. As soon as you walk in, everyone's speaking to you. So it's like, all right, well, this is cool. I like the vibe. And then you get on the mats, everyone's happy, everyone's talking to each other, and it's like I made a ton of friends in a matter of 2 hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We'll do at one of our locations, they'll do these really, really large open mats, and they'll get they have, I think it's 7,200 square feet at that location. So it's a really big mat space, huge. And they'll do these really large open mats a few times a year and get probably 6 or 7 different folks from 6 or 7 different schools to show up. And I mean, we'll get 60 to 70 people there for these open mats, and it's that type of environment. So you get different looks from people that you don't roll with normally, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just everybody's having a good time, and you meet a bunch of new people. Similar to like when you go to tournaments, and I think that's the thing. Like for new people, walking into the gym for the first time, in any academy, is intimidating, at least it was for me, and I would imagine that'd be the case for practically anybody that's brand new. I mean, it's an intimidating thought, even though it's not necessarily an intimidating environment, but you don't realize that until you get in the environment, and that's, I think, the hardest part for a lot of people. But I think once you get in it and you realize that, everybody there is there for the same reason, whether that be just, physical health or mental health or learning some type of self-defense, and that nobody's there, at least not in any good gym, I would say nobody's there to, rip somebody's arm off, and hurt anybody. We're all there to be able to do this for a very long time, but it is intimidating, so I understand for anybody that's wanting to get started, like taking that first step, and walking in and actually trying a class.
Yeah. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I saw this video on YouTube. No, I'm sorry, on Instagram, and he was talking about belt rankings, and he was saying how he was just asking the question like, what do you think the hardest rank to get to? People saying black, some people saying brown, purple. He's like, no. He said all are good answers in their own right, but the hardest promotion is to get is promotion to white belt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, I'm like, okay, you got me hooked, but what are you saying? But he was explaining how like, promoting to white belt is something that you have to do yourself. That's that first step of walking into the gym. You get, you buy your first belt, or if the instructor has extra, he'll give you one. But you buy your first belt. You give yourself your own belt.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you to prove to yourself and to your instructor and everyone else that you deserve to be promoted to something. Promoted to better than white belt. And the only way you're going to get there if you do it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
No, I agree, man.
I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
It's a great point. It's an absolutely great point, because that at times can be the hardest part is, getting up off the couch and saying, all right, I'm going to go give this a try and walking into what could be an intimidating and even unknown environment, for somebody trying something brand new. It's tough. It's a big mental hurdle for sure.
Because one big thing that got me was with my wife. When she started training, she was really, really hesitant to work with anybody else but me.
Yeah,
which I understand. I understand being the only female in the school. We'll get maybe a female every now and then, but they just stop training, so she just trained with majority of the guys. And it's like, I want to help you, but I'm still an assistant instructor, so I can't just put 100% focus on you. But I'm like, you got to get used to it. And she's like, I know, but it's nerve wracking because I don't want to get hurt and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh well, you can still pick and choose who you work with. You don't necessarily have to just pick the available, the last available person. Like, no, you pick who you're comfortable with, work with them, and then you take it from there. But yeah, now she's willing to work with other people. And it's like, yeah, all right. Small victories,
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I think everything we just said around, that mental hurdle of walking into the gym for the first time or being intimidated by it, I think it's true for men, but it's probably 10 times for a female, and it was the same way with the story and situation you described was the same way for my wife. When she first started, she had a lot of hesitation around that, and I get it for obvious reasons. It's intimidating. And it's different for them, than it is for guys. But yeah, very, very similar to your story. In the beginning, she drove with me for a while and would roll with me and then just kind of sit out. But now she's in there full time. She gets after it pretty good. But it took I don't know, probably a month or two, to where she kind of got to that level. And at that point, she had some time to start to get to know some of these people too, just through conversations and whatnot, which probably made it less intimidating and less uncomfortable. And she knows now like who she can roll with, who's not just going to, completely try and, they're not going to just smash her on the mats inside control or something like that. Nobody at our gym would do that to any females or anything, let them work and put them in some positions. And, but again, when you're new, and you don't know anybody, I get it. That's a tough one to, mentally to kind of get past for sure.
Yeah. Because I've had a few other female jiu-jitsu practitioners come on the show, and that was one girl in particular. That was her biggest fear. Being a female, dealing with guys. Let's be real. You're in very compromising positions, and past traumas or whatever could trigger something, set something off because if this is something you first learn and you got someone heavy on top of you and you can't move, you feel helpless.
Yeah.
It's such a mind fuck where it's like, I know what I'm capable of, but for some odd reason I cannot move. Like this guy got me trapped and it's just over for me.
Yep.
But yeah, that turn, she was, she mentioned that a couple of times. She didn't go into too much detail, but she mentioned it a couple of times, and then later on in the story, you find out like, boom, she competes on a regular. She's a blue belt. She's a ref. She's a this and she's a that. I'm like, well, damn.
Yeah.
What a 180,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's tough, man. It's definitely, and that's why look, any any guy that sticks with jiu-jitsu and progresses up the ranks. Obviously I take my hat off to him, but even more so to women that are doing it, you know what I mean? Because it's, like I said, I do think it's probably much harder for them, at least in the beginning stages,
Yeah. Cause I talked to a few blue belts, a couple, I think like last week I talked to a purple belt, and that, those are the ones that's like really interesting because it's like, wow, you push through a lot to, to get where you at. Like, a female, you don't see a lot of them, but you're starting to see like female black belts, red, purple belts, brown belts, and just destroying on the mats. And it's just like, that's awesome to see.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's great. It's great. It's one of the reasons why I want, my daughter's only 5. With both my kids at this point, my goal for both of them is just like, all right, they're training, they like it. In my head, I'm like, all right, just don't screw it up. Like, keep it fun for them, keep it so they want to keep doing it. I don't want to burn them out. So I don't ever, there are days where they're like, nah, we don't want to go today. So that's fine. Don't, I try I don't push them on it. I remind them gently that, hey, you signed up, so you guys need to utilize this. But most of the time they want to go, but there are certainly days where they don't. I'm trying just to keep it fun for them because I want them to stick with it, both of them, but specifically my daughter, because I think it's, for women, having that confidence and having that type of knowledge on how to defend yourself, or get out of a bad situation. If somebody's, grabbing a hold of you or something, I think anybody with some that, that level of training over that many of years, that even if it's a much larger guy that maybe can overpower them, like I think a well-trained woman can put herself in a position to, at least get away, or get the guy in a position to slow down whatever type of attacker, is coming that way. So, certainly want my daughter to stick with it for as long as possible, for sure, for all those reasons.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And ironically, that's the conversation me and my wife had on the way to class the other day. Like, if there are moments where I'm not around, I feel more comfortable knowing that you know how to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your survival rate is higher just from the few classes that you've taken.
Yep.
You may not be proficient in it, which is okay, but that person that's attacking you is not.
Right.
It's not it's a very unlikely chance that a trained martial. I'm not saying it's not possible, but what's the likelihood of you being randomly attacked in the streets by a martial artist?
Very unlikely. Yeah.
Very unlikely. Like he follow you to the alley and slap bump and then try to take you.
Yeah. Right.
But but just to her to be able to be more aware of her surroundings, be more comfortable with herself, and if a situation gets heated, she know how to protect herself. Because even if I am around but not necessarily close by, and it just gives yourself a higher survival rate. It just, if I can get there, if someone can get you get someone attention and so on and so forth, that's all right with me.
Yeah,
that's perfectly fine with that.
Absolutely.
I can sleep better at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely comforting, knowing that the folks around you have some level of self defense like that, for sure.
Because especially with kids nowadays, everyone experienced bullying at some point. Mm-hmm. It happens, but nowadays with social media and just, I don't know, man, just kids are just so ruthless.
Yeah.
When it comes to bullying, like I've seen, videos and heard stories, and I'm like, man, the worst thing I've seen someone do is get slapped or punched or whatever, but this is just downright torture.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would refuse to let my children go through anything like that.
Agreed. Yeah. And that's, for my son, it's what I tell him all the time. And, I would just mention it. It's like him starting wrestling and jiu-jitsu at the ages that he did. I'm like, man, by the time you get into high school, like, you'll be a bad dude, man. You just need to stick with this, like you get into your teens and you've trained in those two martial arts for that long. And like I said, I'm just, I want to keep it fun for him, I don't want it to become a chore in any way, shape, or form, I grew up playing sports my whole life, baseball, mostly at a young age, and always enjoyed it, had a blast, but we, played a lot of it. And I want to make sure that he gets to do other things as well, regardless of what they are, but still, always have that jiu-jitsu and wrestling to fall back on when it's time.
Definitely. And I look at my daughter and it's like, okay, yeah, you're 7, I think she got like 3 stripes, but like, man, just to think in a couple years you'll be XYZ, or by the time you hit 18, it's possible you can be a black belt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just pray I'm around long enough to see something. But 18 years is a long time. But not 18 years, but more like 11 years now. But still we don't know what the future brings. But I just hope that I can keep her head into it long enough to where she's like, you know what, I don't mind doing this. Because right now she's doing it because she's a kid. She wants to be around me a lot.
Yeah.
So when she gets to that age where she's like, she wants to be alone or be her own person, I'm hoping that jiu-jitsu is still going to be a big part of her life.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't blame you there, man. I'm with you 100% on that one.
I'm like, man, I just, cause like the memes you see on social media is like, I don't want the daughter, like, if my daughter go on a date, I don't want the daughter have to, that a man needs to protect her.
Right.
Like if a guy comes to meet my daughter, it's like, I want to be like, hey, good luck. Like I'm not worried, just good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like no threatening, like when are you gonna bring my daughter back? What's your intentions with my daughter? No, good luck.
Yeah, you better mind your P's and Q's. That's right.
Like I'm not worried at all, sir. Have a good time.
Yeah, man, it's peace of mind. It's peace of mind for sure. Absolutely,
for sure. But yeah, they'll be fine. They're in good hands for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So we have a Talk Your Jits podcast question. Your top 3 people, man. Who are the top 3 people you would like to roll with?
Oh, geez, man, that's a tough one. All right, let me think here.
Every rank is the same reaction.
Yeah. That I would like. So, all right, I would like to roll with. I don't know, probably Gordon Ryan, and that's maybe cliche, just because I want to experience and feel, what he does to everybody else. Just so obviously I watch him and I see what he does to everybody else, but it's like, all right, what's really happening there?
Like what's really happening? Yeah.
He and John Danaher did a seminar at Rising Tide before I had joined. I wasn't there.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But one of my coaches and one of the owners, Mike Stewart, who hosted the seminar for them, has said many times, like when he I think it was just in back control. I think Mike said like the way Gordon held back control, he said was different than anything he's ever felt, and Mike's, he has rolled with a lot of different, very talented individuals, throughout his life. And he said Gordon was just on a next level. And then I would say Helson Gracie, because we're a Helson Gracie affiliate school. So Mike and Jordan Stewart, the brothers that own Rising Tide, both got their black belts from Helson, and a number of other black belts that I mentioned there also did. I did take a Helson Gracie seminar last year, which was pretty awesome. Again, just for the same reasons, not necessarily wrong with Helson now. He's quite a bit older, but I'm sure he would still absolutely destroy me. Not suggesting otherwise, but just, in his younger days, just to experience that, I think would be cool. And let's see, third, I'll go with Mikey Musumeci, just because he's one of those guys that I mentioned earlier, that prior to jiu-jitsu, if I was just walking down the street and saw Mikey Musumeci, I'd be like, I'd tear that nerd up. And again, I would be terribly wrong. So, I think that would be my 3.
Isn't it funny? Like, you get into you get into this martial art and you put on these jiu-jitsu glasses where it's like, you look at someone, it's like, yeah, I could take him. But then you see people like him or the Rotolo brothers, and it's like these small, nerdy looking guys, and you just walk into a room, it's like, that guy over there is an assassin. He's like, no one knows, because no one looks like, a lot of people who does jiu-jitsu doesn't look like they do martial arts.
Right.
Like, for a prime example, Ryan Hall.
Yep.
Like if you saw Ryan Hall walking up, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here.
Not physically intimidating at all. Just
at all.
Looks. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Just from looks.
Yeah.
But he will fold you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Like you blink, your face is looking at your back pocket. Like, how did we get here? Like, what happened?
You cannot judge a book by its cover in jiu-jitsu. That is 100% sure. And if anyone tries to, they're going to get they'll be corrected very quickly.
9.5 times out of 10, you will be corrected in the most violent of ways.
That is exactly right. Yeah.
So Cory, man, what if you got anything else going on, man, which you by all means share if you want. Shout out your school if you got any competitions coming up, man. The floor is still all yours.
No, I appreciate it, man. So I'm not registered for any competitions currently. I'm sure I'll get 1 or 2 in this year. Kind of pretty much just look for, ones that are local and ones typically that my son wants to do. Cause usually if I'm taking him, I might as well register myself. That's kind of how
Yeah, might as well, right?
it's usually how it goes for me, which those become very long days because the kids always start first thing in the morning and then, adults being at the end. So, I started last year teaching the competition youth class at Rising Tide at my location. So well, I'm one of the helpers essentially. We have a black belt that teaches the class for the kids, and then I help with the kids classes doing that. So I'll go and help kind of coach and corner some of the kids when we're doing that, and then try and compete at the end of the day. But nothing on the schedule as it stands today. Other than that, man, that's about it. I really appreciate you having me on. This was a really cool experience and enjoyed the conversation, man, very much.
Man, likewise, man. It was great to have you on sharing your new jiu-jitsu knowledge.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thanks again. This was fun.
No problem. No problem, man. I would love to have you back, man. Check up on you from time to time, see how your journey's going, man. And, like I said, have you back on the show and talk some more about it.
I would love to. Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll have to stay in touch. And yeah, I would love to do that.
Awesome. But yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank Cory one more time coming on the show and sharing his wealth of knowledge. Hope you guys gained something from our experiences. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page to stay updated on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.